We will now hear from Dr. Norman Klein, Esther's middle school.
Those of us who saw her or saw her picture, all the internet feeds and Facebook and everything, it's available. Ask Elie actually if you need to how to find it. She looked radiant and strong and beautiful at the wedding of my son Eitan this past Sunday, just a week ago today. So much so that when I spoke to her Tuesday night, I asked her if she wanted to come to Shabbos Sheva Brachos by my son Gadi, because she looked so strong. I said, okay, you know, she's feeling good. This is a good spell, let her enjoy it. She said, no, you have to schlep the oxygen, it's too much trouble. Says, I'll stay home, you know, whatever. Most of you, or many of you who know her from more recent times. But interestingly enough, as opposed to 12 hours ago, there are many of you here who really know her from the olden days. Some, you know, people knew her as Grandma or Bubby, or the Klein family matriarch. But I'd like to go a little bit earlier, way back. Some I just know from her, and some that I've experienced myself. She grew up as a child in Czechoslovakia. Life was very good. She was the youngest of 11 children, so she had her share of spoiling. She had a childhood in a home that was pretty comfortable. Her father had a dry goods store, and they grew grapes in the Carpathian Mountains and made wine. She always would talk with great pride and love about her family, about her brothers, brother Herschel, whom Howie was named after, brother Yitzchak, who I'm named after, and her brother Yosef, her brother Joe, who passed away 7 years ago. What a genius he was, and how he was the star student in the Milanter Yeshiva. I think that the security and the love of family and the tightness of the family, I think that to some extent, or to a very great extent, helped her survive what came next. Part of her survival was the triumvirate of her and Helen Herschel as Shalom, and Blima Herskowitz, Yibadal Chaim, who should live long and healthy. And the three of them went through the horrors together, and that was the family. They supported each other throughout the time in Auschwitz and Ravensbrück, and she also had support from her father. Like Yosef Hatzadik, she saw the Gyon Shalaviv. Whenever there was a time in her life, most recently this past January when she was in the hospital with a severe asthma attack, she saw her father in a dream. And he said, no, it's not your time yet. She had this strong connection to family, and besides helping her through the Shoah, it gave her the blueprint and the model to raise her own family in the same way with love and security. A lot of her, I'm not going to talk about the bad, but she spoke to, as was mentioned, to Yale University and to Spielberg and to a number of other places, and Elohim Ksuvim, or video. As what I want to just say is things that many of you, or some of you at least here, don't know, although, like I say in this group, some of you do know, what she was as a young mother. She struggled to learn a new language, to learn English. Just saying how she was, when she came right off the boat to Chicago, she was still heavily in Yiddish. But she learned the Yiddish, and super atypical for the late 40s, early 50s, as a woman, she learned to drive. Not too common. I remember with her, you know, and was older and in school and Andy was littler, so we used to listen to EVD and used to hear all the chazonim on the radio, and how she used to listen to the news. And those of us who know her in more recent years, she was somewhat to the right of Gush Emunim. And in those days, 1960, she was an Adlai Stevenson liberal, and she was fiercely against Eisenhower. So she had her political growth, but she was always involved in politics. She was always involved in what was going on in her immediate environment and in the whole world. She would come to our house Erev Shabbos all these past several months. First thing she would do is turn on Fox News. She was always involved with what was going on. She, up until the last minute, was constantly involved, not only as she read. We were trying to figure out in the car how many books she read in her life. We can't figure that out, but she finished a 400-page novel on Monday. She loved music. That's the thing, now with her raspy voice over years, you couldn't tell, but she loved music. And she used to sing, you know, Doris Day, Que Sera, Sera, and Eddie Fisher, Oh My Papa. I mean, she was into the pop culture, too, of her day, of that day, of the 1950s. She was totally, you know, she listened to the Chazonim and she listened to Elvis Presley and would sing Return to Sender. I mean, she really was living a full life and in the world. I learned Dine Kashrus from her. I would watch her in the kitchen. I was always interested in that. And I learned how to kasher livers, how to kasher chicken, how to kasher meat. I learned how to kasher dishes. She would say you can't use the dish for 24 hours. I mean, she didn't use the terms tam lefgam and you know all the stuff from Chulin, but she knew every halacha down cold. And the concepts. So when I did learn it for real, I knew them. I learned that at home. That Chaim Soloveitchik, so-called Mimetic tradition. She had it down pat. Now this week, my son, last Sunday, exactly a week ago, my son got married. And like I said, we were zocheh to have her in full strength at the wedding. And we say, Ace, Leokod, the Ace Lispod, and Ace, Lekroa, the Eitlitz for, and Sajid Gon says that the Kriya is the Kriya for Novel, and the Tfira is sewing the clothes for Chassan Kala. And as much as it's been difficult for me, that kind of thing wasn't difficult for her. She could see all the support, she could see all that thing and still recreate a new life and build on that and be able to separate those two aspects. When I was saying to him at her bedside a few days ago, Tefillah Moshe Perak Tzadik says, Samchenu kimosi nisanu shenos re'inu ra'a. We asked Moshe Rabbeinu was asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, gladden us, make us, he speaks Hebrew, but okay. Gladden us, make us misameach kishnosi nisanu, according to the years of our affliction, our torment, shnos re'inu ra'a. The years, and in her case, was 2 years of the war years that were re'inu ra'a. And I don't know if the cheshbon exactly comes out, that's in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands, but I think the deal was made for the wedding, and again, she was able to be there, and that was super important to the Chassan and Kala. Asked people for anything they may have done or not done, and again, should take her life's lessons to heart.